My name's Annette. First, the theme of Rest is Resistance and Dreaming Up a New World was inspired by this class I took called Dreaming of Liberation, which essentially, it was a creative writing course, and essentially we talked about the importance of art in revolutions and how minority communities and Black people are rarely given the space to be artistic, and how that is so diminishing because we have so many people who are impoverished or going through hard times, and they don't have the privilege to escape and to create, and how important that is for mental health and how important that is for growth. And that was basically the basis of that class, which kind of inspired this theme. And before I go into what I had prepared for today, I first wanted to talk a little bit about my own racial healing journey. I grew up in a Hispanic community, Washington Heights. When I went to school, it was like 95% Hispanic people. And yeah, I was always in like minority environments. I was always in diverse spaces. And I currently attend Fordham University, and if you guys don't know, the Fordham campus, there's two campuses, one in Lincoln Center, one in the Bronx, and the one in the Bronx, the Rose Hill campus, is a gated campus in a minority, like low-income community, which is very interesting. Fordham University, most people are paying $80K a year. I'm not paying $80K, but most people are. Most people are white people. It's also a Jesuit school. Most people aren't Jesuit, but there's a lot of Jesuit white people. Nothing against them. But it's definitely a culture shock for them to be in a minority, impoverished community. And it's strange. I have a lot of friends going into college. I made a lot of new friends who aren't from New York. And I remember, because my main campus is the Lincoln Center campus, and I remember when I would go to the Rose Hill campus, a lot of people would like tell me like, oh, it isn't safe, you gotta be careful, and there's a lot of like hesitance in like walking outside of the campus. And so even though I'm a New Yorker and I kind of know what areas are safe or unsafe, and I've never particularly felt unsafe in that area, I kind of let the words get to me. So I remember this one time I was walking, it was like 8 p.m. from the 6th train, and there was just so many people. There was like people taking their kids to school, and I just felt walking through this like neighborhood, and I felt so like at home. Like it reminded me of Washington Heights, and I felt so comfortable. And I was just, these are just like parents and their kids and people like getting by and trying to, go to work and get food. And I don't know, I felt so like hurt that like these are the people that my peers are scared of. And I just felt hurt that I let myself get influenced by them because I know better. And I felt hurt that like, I don't know, I feel like it's strange. I think in an academic setting, I look different maybe. Maybe I dress different or act different. But I look like these people, and just because I'm in your classroom and I like present myself a different way and I appear safe to you, if I was walking down these streets, you would be scared of me too. And it just felt so weird because I kind of felt like I was a fraud because I was like in this space and I was friends with these people, but I'm also not from where they are, So it was just such a weird moment for me, and it was a very sad moment. I don't know. I don't have anything hopeful to say. Sorry. I don't really know where I am in my journey, but I think it was a good experience for me to it exposed me to, I wouldn't have had that realization if I didn't interact with people who were different than me. So I'm glad I had that experience. I don't know, something that also really made me angry was that these people didn't ask you to come to their community. They were there first. A lot of these people are just trying to get by and they're struggling. and then kind of like this institution, this like private university just took up all this space, and they're like gentrifying this area, and they didn't ask you to come there and judge them, you know. People are just living their everyday lives. So I don't know what the answer would be to that. I don't know. I feel like I am someone who I am all for social justice, but at the same time I'm all for realizing that it's not your responsibility to solve everything and change everyone's mind, especially not a black person or someone of color. Like, you already have to go through so much. It's not your responsibility to like teach people anything. But at the same time, like being in a white space, sometimes I feel like it is my responsibility if I'm the not white person in this room, you know? Well, I wish I had something more inspiring to say. But anyway, that I just kind of wanted to share my own personal experience. I was inspired by the people who were sharing, and I just kind of wanted to add to that. But anyways, going on to what I had prepared today. Okay. What does it mean to dream? Historically, most social movements started with dreaming, a reimagining of the world, of how things could be. Dreaming, therefore, is an act of rebellion. It requires a rejection of our society. It demolishes our current power structures. Dreaming says, this isn't how things should be. Action started with dreaming, with a few people who believed in the impossible, who made the rest of us realize that change was in fact achievable. But you don't need me to tell you this. Most of us already know the significance in dreaming. However, what happens when we take away the privilege to dream from people's lives, when our schools, specifically public schools in minority neighborhoods, don't have art programs or enough books for their students, when the average person is overworked, underpaid, coming home late, and doesn't have time for themselves to dream, when most of us are stuck in a loop of working and eating and sleeping and working, and we don't read or write or meditate or make art anymore simply because we don't have the time. When you take away the privilege to dream, you take away any hope for change. I was having a conversation about this the other day with a friend. We both attended a very rigorous academic high school where most students ended up at Ivies and very selective universities. Growing up in this culture, it was so normalized, it never seemed strange or unachievable to us. Now that I'm in college, I've realized what a privilege it is to be here. No, I'm not in a top 10% school, but neither is the rest of the world. In fact, most people in this country don't even go to college, let alone a private one. And what about the rest of the world? Being born in New York has skewed my perception of reality. I grew up in a middle-class home in a minority neighborhood. I went to a school where some kids whose parents were extremely wealthy, and so I placed myself on the scale of living an average life. But most people don't even have the luxury of what I consider to be average. New York is so infinitely small, and what did I do to deserve my luck to be born here? Today, I will introduce some reflective activities from the book Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey. Before I introduce them, I first want to say a few words of why I chose this book for today. Recently, I've become hyper-aware of the significance of rest. People used to say that college was the best years of their lives. Although I do admit I'm having a pretty good time, it's clear that everyone around me is sucked into this culture of doing and winning and succeeding. We live in constant motion, studying and working so we can get good grades and save money and be successful and be happy. But what about now? Are we happy now? And when you have all these people too busy trying to be successful and buying their happiness, that there's no space left in them to dream, that's how you silence movements and halt change. After all, we are the next generation. Change is left to us. Personally, I've always been passionate about social justice. I love to read and write. I love art. It's hard to find time, though. Lately, time feels like a commodity. Prioritize school and the rest will come later. But what about later? I'll be working then, too. So will it ever stop? I won't come up here and say that I've mastered the art of resting, but I can confidently say that I've always been a part of those who take the long way home, and the I'll do it laters, and the I'll be late to work if I can stay with you a minute more. Being present in this moment has helped me to regain control of being put in the race. There's nothing I can do about the fact that I am in a capitalist system, and I don't really plan on going anywhere. That's another problem. I think a lot of us spend a lot of time thinking about how we can change these larger structures and systems without thinking of looking at ourselves first. I can't change the reality around me, at least not quick enough, in a quick enough way that it'll change tomorrow. And so the only way to change the way I walk through the world is to change the way I perceive it. To cultivate practices of rest within my own life, to find things that make me happy for the sole purpose of happiness, not because it brings me money or some other benefit. In her book, Tricia Hersey defines rest as a form of resistance because it disrupts and pushes back against capitalism and white supremacy. Rest is not something we do because we have the energy to do later, like taking a nap so we have energy to finish an assignment, or taking a self-care day as a reward for hard work. Active rest is something completely detached from any goal. It does not have a means to an end. Rest is resting for the sake of resting, because you just feel like it, and in doing so, you're reclaiming your power in a system that constantly tells us that rest is bad. So with that being said, I would like to read a section of Tricia Hersey's book that will conclude the speaker portion. Okay. I believe specifically that my ancestors, those enslaved on plantations, had their dream space stolen, a theft, the space to just be replaced with racial terror and violent labor. I like to imagine them plotting and organizing even deeper plans for freedom and maroonage from a rested state. I am astonished at what my ancestors were able to accomplish and create from exhausted and sleep-deprived state. I place it in the category of divine miracle, and it creates a deep spaciousness for my hope about the future. I wonder about what our bodies can do in this dimension and this time from a rested and imaginative space. What could we heal? What could we figure out? How would our justice work look different if all involved were not sleep-deprived? What transmissions could we receive in our dreams that can guide us to liberation? What insight could our ancestors provide when we connect with them in our dreams? What revelations are we missing out on because we're navigating our life from a machine-like pace? How could your imagination be cultivated if you gave yourself 10 minutes of daydreaming daily? We must reimagine what rest is and what it can be for us. Everything that we have learned about rest has been false. It has been a lie. Our call is to find ways to interrogate rest and listen to our bodies. We can nap and find ways outside of napping to tap into all the ways our bodies and minds connect and slow down. This is rest. There is rest for the weary, for those working 2 or 3 jobs and still unable to pay rent consistently. For those parenting, working, and going to school, there is rest available to you. For the body that is unable to labor the long hours grind culture requires, rest is a refuge to you. So when I hear the responses, I could never rest. I wish I could. I'm so busy. I feel guilty when I rest. I feel like I should be doing something. I'm not overlooking the blatant reality of poverty, low wages, late-stage capitalism, corporations generating billions of dollars while the worker isn't offered a living wage, and all other trickery and abuse that make it feel impossible to thrive. We understand the seriousness that exists when speaking about the life or death situation poverty has placed in our laps. Begin to believe and understand your inherent worth, and rest becomes possible in many ways.